Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Dose of Dave, live here on YouTube. Today, as you can see from the description of today's episode, we're going to talk about the meaning of life. What does that all mean? A lot of people have many different ideas about what the meaning of life is. I think everybody has a personal experience with life. We have a lot of different unique experiences to ourselves that shape who we are, shape how we look at the world and what we believe the world is in relationship to who we are. The biggest, I would say, example of that would be this idea of that we created with religion, with good and bad, and there being a heaven and a hell. So for this idea of feeling as though you always want to either be one or the other, embody all that is good or all that is bad, because that does exist. I think that in and of itself is a great way of explaining this philosophy of what is the meaning of life. Do I engage in all of this good activity in hopes of getting a reward for my good deeds, or am I going to do what I want, even though it may be bad, or even do things that are bad specifically because they are bad, in order to experience what that is like, knowing that you're going to probably suffer the consequences of your bad behavior. These are two polarizing and paradoxical viewpoints. Two ways of kind of philosophizing about, what am I supposed to be doing here in life? What are the types of choices should I be making? Should I just always be doing the right thing? Or should I, engage in things that, I want to do, but maybe aren't so socially acceptable or very beneficial for, society. And all of that really comes down to this idea that, we need to have this association with life. We have to have this, purpose, or, when we wake up in the morning, what are we doing here? How do we see ourselves within this environment, within this world, in this planet Earth that we find ourselves in? We, up until recently, I would say, have had a pretty, not so clear understanding of where we are in this universe. But I would say within the last 60, 50 years, we have had an expansion of consciousness to the level that we can see beyond our own little planet here. We can go into more of a philosophical, exploration of consciousness that may exist in other places within the cosmos, in other planets, in other galaxies. I know there's been all kinds of, not just science fiction, but, true exploration within, history and archaeology, stories of Atlantis and, beings that, may have come from other planets, to come and see this planet Earth. So there's a lot of expansion that comes with that consciousness, a lot of understanding of yourself and how you relate to that. I would imagine most, if not all, animals are stuck in a survival state. They don't have this expanded consciousness, or at least we can't see that they have any type of expanded consciousness, even to the extent that they're self-aware. There are maybe a few examples that I can think of within the animal kingdom where they show signs of being self-aware, recognizing oh, that's me in the reflection, or I am an individual. Babies, I don't think, actually become self-aware until they're much older. I think it's 3 or 4 years old or something like that. They spend the first few years of their lives not even being completely aware that they're in this separate body from everything else around them. Think about that for a second. We're so used to the fact that we're separate from everything else that it's hard for us to wrap our brains around what it might be like to be completely, not really aware of who you are or where you are within the proximity of your environment, or how you relate to these other things that you're seeing all the time. And this, I think, gives birth to these pontifications of what is the meaning? What is the purpose? Why am I here? Why have I found myself here in this body, in this place, in this time? Because we're aware of time, we're aware of space, we're bound by both. So, we can't move into the past. We can't move into the future. Yeah, we can move space, but it takes a lot of physical effort just to go from one place to another, versus, the vastness of the universe. I mean, like, you can't really quite wrap the human brain around how big the universe is. And if there are places to explore and beings to exist within, bodies to exist within it and incarnate in, that means consciousness travels no matter where in this vast environment, right? So how would it do that other than to, have another, more efficient way of moving beyond space or time, vibrating faster in order to break that barrier, right? Moving between dimensions, things like that, things that we can't do because, again, we are bound by space and time. So when we're in this little bubble, right? I don't even know, like, we have to assimilate some kind of association, of why we find ourselves in this time, right? Because I could have been born 100 years ago. I could be born 100 years from now, but why am I here, right? Why am I existing at the age of 35 in the year of 2021, and the other question would be, why am I, in this area? Why am I here? Why am I in Michigan? Why am I, I feel like I'm already giving away too much of my own personal information, but that's the thing about it. Like, we're constantly, I think, trying to find meaning in life. We're trying to find, even when someone, does something to you to wrong you, you're trying to find meaning in that. Why did that happen to me? Or you're trying to find, even if it's an accident, right? Like, something falls out of the sky and, destroys your car. Like, you're going to try to find the meaning in that, and that's the thing, is one of the things I've learned about the universe and my perspective on this whole idea of what's the meaning of life, is that the universe is paradoxical. It's always paradoxical, no matter what. Being a paradox is essentially two things existing that are opposite at the same time. So you can't have good without bad, right? That's a paradox, right? All the people that I'm sure want the world to be this peaceful utopia, I think it's begrudging to accept the fact that in order to have that, in order to have even a feeling of peace, you have to have a feeling of chaos. They go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. They balance each other out. That's kind of the thing about paradoxes. It's a balancing tool. And when you apply that to this idea of meaning, you essentially come to the conclusion that meaning is actually both a thing and not a thing. It's a paradox. So it depends on how you look at it. Either everything has meaning or nothing has meaning. But really, the truth, I think, really underneath all of it all, is that meaning, the meaning of life, it really isn't a thing. There isn't a meaning of life. And I know that is it's difficult for people to wrap your brain around, because you want there to be meaning. You feel like there needs to be meaning. And the reason that you feel like there needs to be meaning, at least I believe the reason why you believe that, is because that is part of the programming. That is part of the mission that consciousness is exploring. So the way that I look at it, everything that exists, including non-conscious things, inanimate objects, I shall say, all of it is one conscious entity, one mind. And again, it's difficult for us to wrap that around our being, because we see examples of separation. There's so much. I mean, like, I look at this freaking stapler, and the thing about it is we're both made of the same stuff. It's just I have some magic in me that allows me to tune into conscious awareness in a way that this does not. So, however, that's not to say that there isn't energy that exists within this object. There isn't. It's not to say that all of this stuff is inanimate in a way. There's a part of it that I believe is still existing. It's still being. It's still collecting data, putting out data. It's part of the system just as much as you're part of the system. And we are just different vantage points, different points of perspective in order to understand truth, in order to understand more about who we are as a collective whole consciousness, as a collective mind. And when we have all of these billions of different little antennas, if you will, picking up on consciousness all over the planet, what I believe is that we are the living, breathing, conscious beings that are incarnated of the consciousness of the earth. So what I believe is that everything is sort of evolving constantly, higher and higher vibrations, into higher and higher realms of existence, into greater and greater expressions of being both the creator and the created. So we are all on a path individually and collectively as these soul groups, on a path to become a planet, a star, a large planetary body, in order to then give seed to other beings of conscious experience. And then over billions and billions of years, it evolves again, right? It evolves again. Now, that's not to say that these individual little meat bag bodies that we incarnate in are all part of this, massive, future body. Like me, Dave Swartz, as an individual, I am not going to evolve into a star, or I'm not going to evolve into, a planet that seeds another race of beings. But me, combined with all of my other past incarnations, all of my other soul family tribe, all together now in this greater expression of consciousness, may collectively be able to evolve into a star, or into a planetary body that then eventually over billions of years seeds a conscious race of beings. So that's pretty heavy. That's a pretty heavy thought, right? And one could extrapolate from that the meaning of life is to give life, is to be both the creator and the created over and over again into infinity, right? And that's very valid. However, I think there's another level to it, to expand that thought even greater to a place where you can see that it's not just the creator and the created, it's also the void of nothingness, the place of all existence together. Because I think when you really trace it all back, it all leads back to a void of pure potential energy, pure potential thought, right? Think about the earth itself as being a conscious being. However, it doesn't have a body to experience all of these thoughts and all of these experiences, right? All of these ideas, all of these dreams, all of these plans, right? I mean, we do that. We, I think, reflect that same feeling, that wanting to be, you know, a thinking, conscious, creating being, to play. And this is where we're getting into how I really see it. So I see it as consciousness, this huge mind, this infinite mind of existence, is so vast, it's so immense, that in order to not really, in order to experience all of these thoughts, in order to express all of what it is, it needs to have these, or it desires to have this place, these dimensions of physical reality, in order to incarnate itself into infinite expressions. And in that way, it can express all of these thoughts. It can live out all of the dreams of infinite existence. I mean, think about every single person on the planet. If you were to take all of their collective consciousness together, and all of their collective dreams, all of their collective desires, all of their collective wants and needs and fantasies, all these stories that we've created. I mean, think about that. And just the freaking like movies and books and all the stories that have been written down. Put all those together. That is what non-physical consciousness of infinite potential must be like, to experience all of it, but not actually be able to live it, to not actually be able to be a conscious being that feels the pain, that feels all of the love separately, because it can feel all of the emotions of infinite possibility, but it's feeling it all at once. And that's the thing, is when you feel it all at once, it's beautiful. It truly is. I've gotten there a couple of times, both with the help of medicines and whatnot. But I've gotten there. And when you get there, it is, wow, that feeling is amazing. It is a blissful existence. But when you dive into one, you know, because you have that possibility, when you dive into one, you can express that pretty extremely. Right. And I think that's what happens in these incarnations of us humans here on this planet, or of other alien races on other alien worlds. You know, why would an infinite consciousness that is all that there is, and we know by our math, by our rudimentary human math, that the galaxy, not galaxies, but the universe out there is so vast, how could we not have just billions of other planets out there full of people like us, full of thinking, self-aware beings just like us, pondering these very same questions? However, I think that once you start to see beyond the mundane and see beyond the idea that we are just these individual beings, and that at the end of our lives there is nothing more, or that we're going to just ascend into an ethereal realm, or be doomed to a lake of fire for eternity, that creates a sense of survival. You know, we feel as though we constantly are needing to and focused on staying alive. And the thing about it is, we're all going to die. Like, I got news for you. We're all going to die. So accepting that, and accepting the fact that we are going to die, truly accepting it. And I'm not there yet. I don't think hardly any of us are there, because it's difficult to do. But I think when you can work on that and accept that death is not only inevitable, but a gift in a way, it is a transformational tool for you to move on into another realm of existence, then I think you can start to truly understand what is the meaning of life. Because again, the meaning of life, I think, is both, it doesn't mean a thing. We have created it as a method for infinite conscious existence to play and to live out the infinite fantasies of possibility. And I think with that, there is also this other paradoxical perspective that everything you do is part of the meaning of life. Every little thing can be seen as a very specific message or a very specific part of the overall meaning of your existence. And again, it all is determinate upon your perspective. So if you see it as this is very meaningful, then it's very meaningful. But if you see it as that's not a big deal to me, then it's probably not a big deal. It all depends on where you're at in the moment, where your being is at that moment. Because again, time and space, we're bound by it, and we're there for a specific reason. We're resonating here at a specific resonance, specific frequency within a specific time frame and a specific spatial frame for a purpose. And again, that purpose, it's not that big a deal, but it's also a chance to play this new game, to be a new you, to be, to follow the greatest passions of your life. Because ultimately, you die, big deal. Going to move on to something else. You're going to move on to something greater. And when you kind of let go of the worry, let go of the anxiety, then you can start to really embrace, well, what do I really want to do right now? If I died tomorrow, what do I do right now? And I think that will start to put you on the right path. It'll put you right within the alignment of your purpose, because it's not just that there's no meaning, there's no purpose, because there is. Consciousness created it. We're part of consciousness. We created the being that we are here, incarnated right now. So there isn't purpose, but there is. You see what I'm saying? I know it's weird. It's paradoxical. And it's very difficult to kind of wrap your brain around that. But again, it depends on how you look at it, because it can go both ways. And it's not just that it can go both ways, it's that it is both ways at the same time. That's the true truth of it. So with that, I think that leads into how we can follow our true meaning, what we're here to do, the meaning that may be unbeknownst to us. But it's something that our heart knows. And when we follow that passion, when we follow that, that's when that's part of you starts to open up more, and it starts to attract the things in your life, the people in your life, the beings in your life, the energies in your life that are going to support that and support your purpose and push you along towards that path. Hell, you might come across obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and it might feel like you're being set back constantly. But maybe all of those obstacles are actually trying to teach you how to be a better version of yourself, so that when you get to an even larger obstacle down the road, you're prepared for it. Think about that. Obstacles can also be a good tool for your overall development, for your overall purpose. So, all right, I think I'm going to end this one a little early today. We're approaching 25 minutes, but I think I've pretty much hit the nail on the head when it comes to this idea of what is the meaning of life. I, again, would love to understand what you guys think the meaning of life is, because, again, everybody's perspective is a unique truth. There is no real truth in my mind. We all have a piece of it. You can't quite really truly know truth until you come back to the singularity, and the singularity is everything. So when you return, your shred of consciousness returns back to the eternal being consciousness that we all are. You're not really going to understand what truth is. Truth is going to always be relative until you get there. So my truth is unique. Your truth is unique. I think it's all important, and it's all good to share. And yeah, we might disagree, but in that disagreement, I think both of us are going to come out with a greater understanding of truth. So, all right, guys, this is it for this week's live episode of Dose of Dave. As always, you can find me on social media. All of my handles are at Dave Swartz Art. You can see it down here, right there. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram and here on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to my channel here on YouTube, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can get more of this Dose of Dave content, more mind-blowing stuff. And don't forget that I also have an IndieGoGo right now for my comic book, Confederate Monster, that brings the world of Frankenstein and the Civil War together. We're going to be running that for a couple more weeks. We'll see how much more we can raise for it, and hopefully we can get to that oversized movie posters stretch perk. I really want to be able to get to that. We got a little bit of ways to go, so if you haven't checked that out and haven't contributed to the campaign, click the link below and you can find it there. All right, guys. Next week, I'm going to talk about something totally brand new. I have no idea what. But if you haven't subscribed to my Patreon yet, I'm going to be doing weekly updates on my Patreon page for the $10 and up tiers. So if you want to get more of my video content where we dive more into my comic book creation process, more into my fine art, paintings, all the things that you are been seeing on social media, I talk about all that new stuff over on there. So check out the Patreon link down below as well if you want to get more in-depth Dave. Okay? Take care, guys, and I will see you next week. Hope you have a great weekend.